Line partners, we intensify our monitoring and utilize all materials and human resources at our disposal to assure our constituents, and we reiterate our call to them to avoid speculations and spread fake and harmful mongering, the governor said. No, akin dito, there is a sentence here which we all, I'm not the only one, I'm sure everybody cut short his Christmas break in Davao City to discuss with health experts and new COVID strains that supposedly originated in the Zulu Kingdom. Yun na lang, hindi na yung iba. In a way, we are the silent points there. The narratives that we hear today is actually, there is a new COVID-19 strain from the United Kingdom. If it is a COVID-19 new, walang nag-iba dito unless there is a mutation or a variant of that COVID-19. Ganun ang pagkasalita niyan. Now, prudence tells us that we should confront this emerging infectious disease ano talaga, I have allowed kasi the face-to-face classes as pilot projects all over the country. With the new strain, true or not, maybe it's true because it's being validated in Germany and South Africa, UK. Yung order ko noon kay Briones that she can, where is Secretary Briones? If she's here, I'm calling back the order. And I will not allow face-to-face classes of children until we are through with this. We have to, I said, we have to know the nature of the germ that we are confronting. Wala pa tayong alam, and I cannot take the risk of allowing the children. That would be a disaster, actually. So, mindful of that, I am canceling the order I gave a few weeks ago, to Secretary Briones of the Education Department to suspend everything, all activities of children, especially yung face-to-face classes. We know only little of how this mutation took place, the new variant. So we would like to call on the experts to give us at least something to work on kung sakali meron. Can I call the experts, medical experts, who can maybe give light to us of what we are confronting or fighting? Dr. Marisa M. Alejandria. She's a member of the Technical Advisory Group of COVID-19. Is she here?
Mr. President,
Yes.
Mr. President, with your permission, we have prepared a consolidated report coming from our experts. But before that, I will make the presentation, Mr. President. And perhaps the questions can be answered by our experts whom we have invited. But with your permission, Mr. President,
Yes.
can I just have the honor of acknowledging the following experts. Dr. Marisa Alejandria, Member Technical Advisory Group for COVID-19. Dr. Mark Edsel Ayes, the Laboratory Manager of the UP Philippine Genome Center. He's over there. Dr. Celia Carlos, Director of the RITM. Dr. Alifea de Guzman from the DOH Epidemiology Bureau. Dr. Enrique Domingo, the Director General of the FDA. Dr. Nina Gloriani, Head Vaccine Development Expert Panel and Professor, UP College of Public Health. Dr. Teodoro Ted Herbosa, Special Advisor, NTF against COVID-19. Dr. Jaime Montoya, Executive Director, DOST Philippine Council for Health Research and Development. Dr. Annalisa T. Ong Lim, Member, TAG Group for COVID-19. Dr. Cynthia Saloma, Executive Director, UP Philippine Genome Center. Dr. Mario M. Panaligan, Immediate Past President, Philippine Society for Microbiome and Infectious Diseases, and Vice President, Philippine College of Physicians. Dr. Camilo Roa Jr., Pulmonary Medicine, Manila Doctors Hospital. Dr. Edsel Salvania, Member Technical Advisory Group for COVID-19. Dr. Ron Jean Solante, Chairman, Adult Infectious Disease Tropical Medicine, San Lazaro Hospital. Dr. Socorro B. Escalante, Coordinator, Acting World Health Organization Country Representative, and Dr. Troy Hepte, Public Health Epidemiologist and Consultant, Senate Committee on Health. Again, Mr. President, we are appreciative of the presence of our various medical experts at a very short notice. And again, can I begin with my presentation, Mr. President?
Yes, just if you,
Yes.
if I may suggest,
Yes.
since we are talking of an invasion, actually, of new microbes, kindly tell us how we could prevent it from entering the country, if at all we can. Mahirap yan, but somebody should tell us whether we should close the borders or close the entire country. That's one. And the second is, what medical interventions can we make to fight this deadly virus? So, it's yours now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I'll have a short presentation, Mr. President. Again, thank you, Mr. President, sa lahat po ng ating mga eksperto na pinaunlakan ng ating pong imbitasyon. I would like to share a brief situationer sa sinasabing new variant of SARS-CoV-2 na naitala mula sa UK. Ang paunang aksyon dito ng inyo pong IATF at mga karagdagang rekomendasyon mula sa DOH alinsunod sa payo ng ating pong mga eksperto. Ito po, ang new variant ng SARS-CoV-2 ay na naitala sa United Kingdom ay sinasabing mas madaling makahawa at mabilis raw po nitong napapalitan ang predominant na strain na COVID sa Southeast region ng UK at iba pa pong mga parte nito. Sa UK sa ngayon ay 5 hanggang 10% ng lahat ng COVID-19 specimens ay sumasailalim po sa genetic sequencing upang matukoy ang saktong strain or variant. Sa Kent, South England, ang average na sequencing coverage ay nasa 4%. Ang unang kaso na natukoy mula sa bagong variant ay noong September 20 pa. Base sa December 13 report, nasa 1,108 na individual sa England ang may COVID hango sa variant na ito. Ayon sa mga pag-aaral sa loob ng laboratories, ang bagong mutation ay nakadagdag sa kakayanan ng virus na maka-infect ng human and animal cells. Current evidence suggests 70% higher transmissibility o mas mabilis na pangahawa nito. Ngunit wala pa pong indikasyon na ang virus na ito ay nagdudulot ng mas malubhang karamdaman at na maapektuhan nito ang pagtalab ng bagong bakuna kontra COVID. Sa ngayon, higit sa 40 bansa na ang nag-impose ng temporary travel restrictions until December 31 para sa mga pasahero na nagmula sa UK. Next slide, please. Dahil sa inaasahang pagtaas ng mga kaso ngayon Kapaskuhan, minabuti na ng IATF na magdoble ingat at magrekomenda ng temporary travel restrictions. Alinsunod po sa IATF Resolution number 90 na inyo pong inaprubahan noong Disyembre 23 na siyang lahat ng paglipad o biyahe galing sa UK ay pangsamantala munang sususpendihin mula ika-24 hanggat ika-31 ng Disyembre. Kabilang sa mga hindi makakapasok sa bansa ang lahat ng mga biyahero na nanggaling o nagdaan sa UK sa nakalipas na 14 na araw. Para naman sa mga nasa biyahe na at dumating sa Pilipinas bago alas 12:01 ng December 24, sila ay dinala po sa Clark upang tapusin ang 14-day quarantine period, ano pa man ang resulta ng kanilang RT-PCR. Ang detalye sa susunod na slide po. Nakapagkasunduan din ng IATF na balikan at aralin muli ang naturang travel restrictions bago mag-lapse ang effectivity period. Kaugnay na rin ang bagong risk classification na pag-uusapan po at irirekomendang muli sa inyo pong tanggapan na mahal na Pangulo. Ito po yung new quarantine, community quarantine status covering the period January 1 to 31st. Next slide po. Ito naman po ay galing sa kay kalihim Vince Dizon. At dito po, makikita po sa mga larawan sa kanan ang protocols sa kanilang pagdating. Ito po yung mga galing UK o dumaan ng UK na dumating po. Sila ay inihiwalay sa ibang mga pasahero at pinaswab. Pinoseso din sila ng ating immigration para ma-confirm kung sila ay mula o dumaan sa UK. Pagkatapos nito, inihatid po sila sa New Clark City para doon tapusin ang 14-day quarantine. Ang kanilang mga swab samples ay padadala rin sa RITM and Philippine Genome Center para sa karagdagan pagsusuri. Ayon sa NTF report mula December 22 to 25, umabot na po sa 79 na pasahero mula UK ang dumating sa bansa, 72 ang dumating sa NAIA habang 7 ang dumating naman po via Clark. Sa 79 na nagmula po sa UK, 2 rito ang bumalik na sa UK, samantalang 77 ang nanatili rito sa Pilipinas. Base sa report kahapon po, 59 na ang mayroon ng test results, kung saan 53 ang negative. Ngunit may isa pong nagpositibo sa COVID at inaantabayanan natin ang 23 na natitirang resulta. Pero yung testing po nito, Mr. President, hindi po nangangahulugan na ito na po yung new variant. Dahil magsasagawa pa po ng pagsusuri ang ating pong mga eksperto mula sa Philippine Genome Center. Next slide, please. Base sa mga ulat na kinalap ng WHO mula 28 ng Agosto hanggang ika-23 ng Disyembre, may 12 bansa sa Western Pacific region ang nagtala ng mga imported na kaso mula sa UK. Kabilang po rito ang Hong Kong, China, Singapore, New Zealand, Korea, Japan, Malaysia, Solomon Islands, Vietnam, Australia, Taiwan, and Cambodia. Sa mga ito, 3 bansa ang nakapagtala ng mga kaso base po sa bagong variant. Sa Australia ay may 4 na kaso na natuklasan habang naka-quarantine. Sa Hong Kong ay may 2 kaso, 2 estudyante na edad 14 at 17. Sa Singapore naman po ay may 1 kaso, isa rin estudyante na 17 taong gulang. Sa Japan na na-detect ang new variant sa 5 biyahero mula sa UK. Samantalang wala pang kaso mula sa new variant ang naitala sa Pilipinas. Ngunit nais ko pong tukuyin ang limitasyon ng datos na ito. Ito ay mula sa mga official sites lamang kung saan ang datos ay patuloy na nagbabago o inaayos dahil sa ongoing case investigations. Meron din mga naitalang imported na kaso na hindi matukoy ang pinanggalingan. Ang ating pong recommendation, next slide please. Ito po ang aming rekomendasyon, Ginoong Pangulo, habang nadaragdagan ang mga bansang nag-uulat ng detection ng UK new variant, nilirekomenda po ng DOH kasama ng mga eksperto ng TAG o Technical Advisory Group ng ating IATF at ng World Health Organization na sa mga manggagaling sa mga bansang may kumpirmadong new variant, gawin mandatory ang pagtapos ng 14-day quarantine period sa New Clark City. Ang protocol na ito ay gaya na ng ipinatupad ngayon para sa mga biyaherong dumating bago mag-alas 12 ang 1 umaga ng December 24. Ikonsidera lamang ang travel ban, Mr. President, kung nasa level na ng community transmission ang new variant sa naturang bansa. Lahat din ng specimens galing sa mga biyahero sa UK ay dapat pong maipadala sa PGC upang sumailalim sa genomic sequencing. Ito naman ang ating additional action points. Ilan na lang po ito, matatapos na. Ito naman po ang karagdagan complementary action points na naitatag na rin noong nakalipas na IATF para sa lahat ng ating pong international travelers. Patuloy na pagpapatupad ng BOQ, Bureau of Quarantine, at OWA sa quarantine at testing protocols para po sa mga papasok sa ating bansa. Sila din ay naatasang magsumite ng line list at i-endorso ang mga international travelers na papasok sa iba't ibang LGUs. Ang DILG at LGUs naman po ay sisiguraduhin na magtatapos ng mga ini-endorsong biyahero ang kanilang 14-day quarantine sa temporary treatment and monitoring facilities o sa kanilang tahanan. Next slide. Kailangan din natin palakasin ang ating kapasidad for biogenomic surveillance at i-institutionalize ito as a comprehensive system integrated with the current influenza-like illness and severe acute respiratory infection surveillance. Kinakailangan din bigyan ng sapat na kakayanan ang ating mga sub-national laboratories gaya ng RITM upang magsagawa ng biobanking o ang pagkolekta at pag-imbak ng samples para sa mga kakailanganin pag-aaral. Ang surveillance systems na ito ay importante din po sa ating pag-monitor ng vaccine effectiveness. Para naman sa mga agarang aksyon, ang inyo pong DOH ay tutulong sa pag-identify ng mga samples na isusumite sa PGC para sa kanilang pagsusuri. Agad rin magre-report ito ng mga areas or population groups na nakitaan ng clustering at community transmission para sa gayon ay agad na makapag-conduct ng biosurveillance ang RITM, ang PGC at ang National Institutes for Health. Ang RITM, PGC at NIH naman ay magkukonduct ng purposive sampling as part of biosurveillance, kung saan uunahin ang mga samples na nakuha sa buwan ng Nobyembre at Disyembre. Samantalang ang RITM ay naatasa mag-develop ng Standard Operating Procedures, Response Protocol, bilang paghahanda sa mga posibleng bagong variants at strains ng virus. Para po magampanan ang mga tungkulin na ito, Mr. President, aming pong nire-review ang resources na ating kakailanganin at tayo po ay magsusumite ng request for additional budget kung kinakailangan. So ang mga key insights or messages na lang po, nais ko pong ibahagi sa ating lahat po dito at nanggaling po sa ating mga eksperto. Una, sa paglitaw ng bagong variant na ito, mas dapat po natin paigtingin ang pagsunod sa minimum public health standards. Napaka-importante po nitong MPHS, ang paghuhugas ng kamay, cough etiquette, pagsuot ng mask at face shield, pagdistansya ng 1 metro o higit pa, at panigurado na maayos ang ventilasyon or air circulation sa pagprotekta laban sa COVID-19. Hindi lamang po tayo mapuprotektahan ng minimum public health standards sa kasalukuyang variant. Bagkus ang MPHS po ay kinikilalang epektibo sa kahit anong mutation or variant ng virus na ito. At para maiwasan ang pag-mutate ng virus, kinakailangan natin mapanatiling mababa ang mga kaso sa bansa. Kung mas kaunti ang mga taong nai-infect, mas mababa rin po ang tsansa na mag-mutate ang virus. Ikalawa, kailangan natin patuloy na pagtibayin ang kumpiyansa ng publiko sa bakuna. Dahil sa paglabas ng bagong variant, mas nagiging inclusive at equitable ang vaccine efforts sa buong mundo. Kaya naman dapat natin sabayan ito ng increased vaccine confidence. Kailangan natin maging transparent sa mga efforts to secure our vaccines. Kailangan natin magbigay ng regular na updates para maiparating sa publiko na atin talagang sinisigurado na ang mga bakuna na atin pipiliin ay safe and effective. At ito po ay gagawin natin gamit ang nagkakaisang boses ng gobyerno sa ilalim po ng inyong administrasyon. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.
Be interested to hear from General Galvez. The steps they have taken so far to, I should confront this new virus.
Sir, at the NTF, we have already coordinated with our response team, and we will intensify our surveillance in the different airports. We already informed Cebu City Airport, and they were being instructed by Secretary Vince on isolating the different passengers from UK, and also all airports had been coordinated with DOTR, particularly with Ochi Tuason. We have been coordinating with Secretary Tucade, and with the information on the Sulu area and also in Sulu, Basilan, Basulta area, we will coordinate with the military through Secretary Del on how we could help the Sulu and also in Tawi-Tawi, so that the intrusion of the possible cases be prevented. And also we forwarded already the letter of the Sulu governor to the IATF and also to DFA, so that they can also arrange with Sabah and also with our post in Malaysia. Sir.
You know, Galvez, what is very important in that area is really the control of the entry of people, whether or not they have in their bodies already the virus. That's another thing. Kailangan natin i-control yung borders natin, and maybe General Lorenzana might be able to harness the assets of the Philippine Navy, additional
Yes, Mr. President.
patrol ships.
Maybe we should also ban the movement of people from Sabah to Sulu. and then we will enforce the blockade of people trying to break the blockade, sir.
Uh, so, ito ang gusto kong may tanong sa mga experts. How many mutations is possible from this COVID-19? If it can mutate and produce another variant, how many do you think this virus is capable of mutations? Kasi maghahabol tayo dito, so we just to know, we want to know kung paano natin how to really increase our surveillance dito sa bagong mutation. And I said, how many can this COVID-19 produce variants and mutations over time? Can somebody answer the question?
Mr. President, may we recognize Dr. Cynthia Palmes Saloma, the Executive Director of the UP Philippine Genome Center. Madam, you have the floor.
Hello po, Mr. President. So far, worldwide, mga 12,000 na po na mga sequence changes ang nangyari po sa 30,000 bases na genome itong virus. Hindi naman po lahat ng mga mutations nagkukos ng bad effects. Meron naman pong okay o hindi. Ito lang po yung bagong variant kasi po nag-occur siya sa spike protein na nagko-contact sa receptor ng human, kaya medyo concerned po siya. So, Mr. President, if we want to track the mutations in the Philippines, kailangan po, beyond RT-PCR testing, kailangan po natin ng whole genome sequencing. Na yan po yung gagawin namin together with RITM and the Department of Health.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to know that there's an agency or body that takes care of this, just in case. Ang pangalawa, is there a need for us to prepare against, make preparations against this new strain? Ano ang, well, if they are, for example, passengers coming in from UK, from other places, not necessarily taking the airlines from UK, but others. Paano ito? Same control ang gagawin natin. Kung palabas na sila, maybe there are those going home for the vacations, for the season. Dumaan muna ng ibang lugar, but galing UK. And how do we know what steps are you taking to determine these guys who are potential carriers of the new strain of COVID-19? Yung hindi galing sa people taking flights directly from UK to the Philippines, wala yan. So we have banned it. But for others who are from UK or working and passing to other places and taking flights, not necessarily airlines, from the British territory, but yung pauwi na, dumaan lang, nagbakasyon. Yeah.
We can ask our Epidemiology Bureau, Dr. Alithea de Guzman, for her answer.
Sige po. Mr. President, good evening po. So, tama po kayo, sir, no? We should protect not just from the flights directly coming from UK, but there should be a system in place na saan po talaga siya nanggaling, whether dumaan mo na siyang UK, tapos nag-layover siya somewhere, pero ultimately, dapat po, pag may history of travel siya sa UK in the past 14 days, ito po yung mga nililimita or hindi po muna natin papasukin sa Pilipinas. So, probably the Bureau of Immigration kasi makikita po nila yung stamp, no, doon po sa dokumento. At dito po yung stamp, tama po kayo, no, kailangan palakasin yung ports of entry, the border control. So, through BI from BOQ, para malaman at malimit ang pagpasok. At kung makapasok po, meron tayong sistema para po ma-screen lahat ng papasok po sa atin. Thank you, sir.
Mr. President.
That should good enough. Yes.
Mr. President, according to the Bureau of Immigration, apart from flights coming directly from the United Kingdom, ang karamihan daw po ay mga flights ng United Arab Emirates. In other words, nanggagaling po sa bandang Middle East na nagta-transit sa or na dumadaan doon sa mga lugar na yon or transiting in the United Kingdom. Ang pagdating po dito sa ating mga paliparan, ang first line of defense po ay, according to the Bureau of Immigration, ay ang paghawak ng Philippine Coast Guard para po mag-segregate yung mga hindi naman dumaan sa mga areas na like the UK na possibly infected at inhiwalay na po sila. At dinedetermine po kung sino ang kailangan na ma-quarantine at hindi. At ang last line of defense po ay ang Bureau of Immigration. Ang Deputy Commissioner po ng Immigration ay present dito sa meeting nito. Baka maaari po siyang magdagdag ng additional information or measures that have been taken by the Bureau of Immigration. Deputy Commissioner Alegre is here, and he may wish to add something to the measures taken when these foreign passengers arrive in our country.
Ito lang naman, tanong ko lang, do you have the sufficient manpower to do that? Because we have terminated so many, we dismissed so many employees of the Bureau of Immigration. Halos parang yung ano nila, wala nang, you know, the reason really is there would be a lot of questions asked before these passengers can be cleared. So they would have to trace from where they came from, whether they stopped over in other areas before finally taking a flight to the Philippines. Ang gusto ko malaman kung may tao ka kasi we have terminated what?
Mr. President, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ganun nga po ang ginagawa ng Bureau of Immigration dito sa mga foreign arrivals na to. They check the passports kung saan po mga lugar nanggaling or nag-transit at by interview also, by intensive interview. Going back to your question, Mr. President, do we have the sufficient manpower at the Bureau of Immigration? Yes, it's true na marami na po tayong sinuspend at may mga naalis na po. Pero yun po ay immediately pinalitan ng Bureau of Immigration from the main office at from other regional offices ng Bureau of Immigration who have sufficient training also in dealing with foreign passenger arrivals. Kaya hindi naman po masyadong problema ang manpower sa Bureau of Immigration. Dahil napalitan naman po yung mga naalis at sa kasalukuyan po ay hindi naman masyadong heavy ang passenger traffic sa ating mga paliparan. Kaya po na-address naman po ng Bureau of Immigration ang kanilang manpower situation.
Well, it's good riddance that it took place during the time of a crisis like this because there's less people traveling and less people, otherwise holidays are not really maybe attractive to other people. I forgot the numbers of your immigration people manning the desk there at the airport. We terminated how many? That 42, I think.
I think more than that, Mr. President, including those who were suspended, more than 80, if I remember correctly, probably about 100 now, including, those who were dismissed and those who were suspended, Mr. President. But meron pa naman pong available manpower coming from the other offices and regional offices ng Bureau of Immigration na pwede naman pong ilagay sa ating Manila terminals.
You can, if need be, you can always maybe take in newcomers from the other agencies, or you can increase the number by just asking people, especially those na ilalo na yung gusto ko yung ipalit yung mga first grade eligibles sa yung natanggal na dismiss doon dahil sa pastillas. Marami yon. Eventually it will reach 100 siguro when the investigation is over. But yung preliminary actions natin, medyo naano lang ako. But I now follow your trend of thought that this time there is less travel and people take care of people. But there will be so many questions asked. Malaki ang pila dyan kung ganun. Well, anyway, it's a blessing in disguise that there are less people to attend to dito sa immigration table. Secretary Duque, do you have an office, an office or agency under you working also on this, other from UP, working to find a vaccine? Is there people there?
Mr. President, if I may, vaccine-wise, there's a process, the DOST, ang nangunguna po, lead agency sa vaccine development, together with the vaccine expert panel and the single joint ethics review board and the FDA. So meron po tayo pagdating po sa pagtukoy ng mga bakuna that will be the most effective, safest, and of ensured quality, Mr. President. So meron po tayong mga opisina.
The Philippines can produce a vaccine on our own, made or manufactured out of the brainwork of people who are Filipinos. I think UP is one, and the UST is working on it.
And the RITM, Mr. President, is also in one of the best positions to collaborate with the other government agencies for a vaccine self-sufficiency goal in the near to medium term, Mr. President.
Pardon me if I remove my mask. I cannot pronounce the words properly. This thing is bothering me. Pagpasensya na kayo. Hindi naman siguro, walang hulihan naman dito. Well, there is, no one is above the law. And it says that you are violating a certain regulation. Ang problema, hindi ako makapagsalita ng I seem to stammered ang bunganga ko. Well, the most important thing really is yung surveillance, that we are able to identify persons coming in, not only from UK, but from other places. Like Australia, meron na din doon. Singapore has another cases. And what is horrifying is the statement of the medical world, ng mga experts, is that it can mutate very rapidly. Nakakatakot eh. So if we have to believe them because that is their they are the one equipped with the expertise. So sabuti yung maniwala tayo. And if it's contaminating people at a very fast rate, magkakaroon talaga tayo ng problema. So we have to increase the surveillance. And of course, itong quarantine, kung Pilipino ang umuwi. And I hope that it would not reach the shores of the Philippines, yung variant na yan. Otherwise, we are in trouble. Because we'll just have to wait for the Western world to study and come up with solutions. Tayo dito, we just wait and see attitude. Wala naman tayong magawa. Oh yes.
I would just like to underscore the fact that we are not defenseless. Hindi naman po parang wala tayong laban kahit na makapasok po yan. Hopefully, hindi makakapasok. Pero kung makakapasok naman po siya, Mr. President, please be reassured that the mechanisms, the systems, the policies are already all in place. And what do I mean by this? We have the 5 strategic pillars that we have been implementing since 9-10 months ago. And these are the prevention using our BIDA solution of the DOH, BIDA may disiplina ng DILG, 7 commandments of the DOTR, the Angat-Ingat of the PCOO, and we've been drilling down relentlessly to all the communities about the importance of preventive measures. Number 2, sir, is the early detection. The key is early detection so that we will forestall admissions of severe and critical cases. Ano po? And we have already observed that the clinical management of severe to critical cases has tremendously improved over time. And that's kudos to our doctors, our clinicians. They've really improved their craft, and saving lives is now what is being observed. And then kasama po sa atin early detection is active case findings, the contact tracing, testing. Our testing now has increased tremendously, and we have to date tested 6.2 million Filipinos. That's about close to 6% testing coverage. And then the aggressive isolation and quarantine, this is already in place, Mr. President, and the treatment, our hospitals have improved tremendously, as I have indicated earlier, and the preparations for the new normal that has to be embraced by the local government units and in their respective communities. But by and large, we have made some great strides in our pandemic response, but it's far from being perfect. But the results, as we can see today, we have greater than almost 93% recovery rate. We have maintained our relatively low active cases, and the many gains that we have accomplished over the past several months, and we intend to build further on these gains. And so even with the threat of new variants being confronted, or rather confronting nations, and we are no exception. Sabi nga po nila, it's not a question kung darating dito, it is going to perhaps really reach the shores, but it's a question of when. But again, all of the systems are in place, Mr. President, so we hope that we can manage this, Mr. President.
You know, if true that there is a variant new and it is now wreaking havoc on the lives of people, one of the countries I think that has imposed a lockdown again is France. Kaya gusto ko malaman sa inyo, kung magdating dito, are we going to impose another lockdown until we find out what we can do? From the medical, we invited guests. Can somebody, so that we can prepare actually? I'm making some projections. I hope that it would not reach the Philippines. I pray and I hope. But I said, make some projections. Sabi mo, it's not a matter of whether or not it would reach the Philippines. It will, until we decide to close the country. But that is not possible. And so now, kung magdating itong kung bagong variant dito, should we go back to the lockdowns again? Yeah, General Garbes, what do you say?
Sir, I believe we must apply some proactive measures, particularly on DFA, that they will have an advisory, particularly UK, that most of our kababayan there should not go home because they will be having yung 14 days quarantine. Maybe also we also discourage muna from the Europe area through maybe also with the DOTR that all passenger airlines should have a more stringent border control in terms of the identities of the passengers coming into the Philippines. Particularly, dapat sir mabigyan natin ng instructions, sir, yung mga recommend ko po kay Secretary Duterte to give instructions to the different airlines coming from Europe na talagang busisiin po yung kanilang mga passport na baka mamaya doon sila nanggaling sa UK. And maybe yung DFA po, sir, they have some sort of advisory na those people na mga kababayan natin sa UK for the meantime, considering of the incidence of the mutation of new variant, na dapat i-discourage po natin na wag muna sir bumalik dito sa Pilipinas. And then also tama po kayo sir na dapat magkaroon tayo ng active surveillance through the LGU, dahil hindi po natin alam na ang nagkaroon lang tayo ng tinatawag nating order was only last December 23. Baka hindi po natin alam na may nakapasok na po nung mga naunang mga buwan. And we should have some sort of discrete investigation using also yung ating armed forces at yung PNP na baka may mga balikbayan na galing ng UK na nandun na po sa mga areas. So we need really to have yung active surveillance, lalo na po yung mga nakadating po dito. Based po sa text po ni Sec. Liling na nandun po sa Singapore yung kanyang anak, meron na pong isang identified na strain sa Singapore. And it was already confirmed sa anak po ni Sec Liling na nandun po. So maybe ang mangyayari din po, yung mga ibang countries like Japan na meron ng 5 ngayon, it may happen na talagang po natin. Ang isang po natin na pwede po natin gawin po, sir, isa talagang mag-designate tayo ng quarantine, special quarantine area for those who will be later identified na para po talaga ma-isolate natin mabuti. Kasi yun po, time will come talaga na Mr. President, na baka magkaroon po talaga ng strain dito. We should be prepared kung saan po natin ilalagay yung mga tao po na para ma-isolate po natin sila na. So yun lang po, mahal Pangulo.
Mr. President, can I make a comment, sir?
Yeah,
On your question, sir, if we had to tighten the lockdown, I think the IETF should put a threshold kung ilan yung araw-araw na lumalabas na, no, then we may be able to, we might enforce again a tighter lockdown. Sir. Kailangan may threshold tayo. Kung bababa lang siya ng 2,000 below, or even 3,000 siguro. But it will be the IETF siguro, Secretary Doke, no? Mag-usap tayo para at threshold para automatic lockdown tayo. Thank you, sir.
Actually, yung lockdown is a possibility. I said we are making some projections, but if the severity in numbers would demand that we take corrective measures immediately, then we'll just have to go back to the lockdown. Pagka rumami sila with the new strain, then in the meantime that we are not able to confront them effectively, I mean the virus, we'll just have to, tama yan, it depends on the severity in number. Kasi pagka marami na, and we do not have the antidote of how to kill those variants, we have a problem there. And of course, we would also be hard-pressed on looking for the money for the expenses in the meantime. Magastos yan. Yes, John, you.
Yes. As of now, Mr. President, our situation in the country is manageable. If we are just talking on the local COVID situation, what we have really to guard or to watch out is the international borders. Because the variants or the new strain is coming from those identified countries. Kung mababantayan po natin yung ating international ports, kung po pwede, maimbudo natin sila sa 1 or 2 international ports lang. And tulad po na sabi ni Secretary Galvez, ready tayo sa quarantine facilities. Then we can isolate yung situation on the local and find if there is anyone who is able to pass through, yun po yung hanapin natin. Right now, there's no necessity to call for a lockdown, but probably more on controlling the flow from the international. If ever, probably we may not have to declare lockdown in the country, but we may have to close the border if there is a real situation that would occur later on. So, for the quarantine naman, sir, we'll make sure that the LGUs will see to it that anyone who gets contact with a person coming from UK or from the 4 countries enumerated, i-quarantine po sila kahit home quarantine just to ensure na hindi sila makagalaw. That way, I think we can control the situation.
Mr. President.
Yes, Secretary Dugade.
Thank you very much, Mayor President. Noong hong naglabas ng protocol at guideline ng IATF saka ang DOH, nag-zero in ho tayo sa UK. From December 22 hanggang ngayon, zero in tayo sa UK. Nung naglabas ang IETF ng protocol, rinivisit and strengthen namin sa DOTR yung tinatawag ho namin na one-stop shop sa pamunuhan ng OTS, Office of Transport Security, si General Raul Del Rosario. Kaya nga ba't noong December 22, nalaman namin na ang pumasok from UK, 2 pasahero. December 23, 54 passengers. December 24, 6 passengers. December 25, 17 passengers. Sa kabuuan, meron hong suma total, gaya ng report ni Secretary Duque, 79 passengers. Out of the 79 passengers, nanggaling ho yan, 72 nanggaling sa NAIA. 7 lang ho yung sa Clark. Doon ho sa 79, 2 ho yung umuwi, mag-asawa. Ibig sabihin, pumasok ng Maynila, hindi na nagtagal, using the same flight sa Emirates, bumalik sa London kasi yung asawa na Brit ayaw pumunta sa Clark. Isa lang ho ang positive so far at inaantay yung resulta natin sa mga 23 passengers. Ang ibig kong sabihin lang ho is, nagsisiro in tayo sa UK. Yung report kanina ho ni Secretary Duque, parang nasasabi niya na kailangan lawakan natin ng konti yung pagsipat natin ng mga pasaherong hindi lang nanggagaling sa UK, tignan din natin yung ibang bansa na kung saan meron na yung bagong strain ng COVID. Kasi yung bagong strain ng COVID ay mabilis yung kontaminasyon at mas malawak. Having said this, Mr. President, siguro importante at bigyan tugon at pansin natin short of or in preparation of lockdown, yung rekomendasyon ni Secretary Duque kanina, na silipin natin yung ibang lugar na kung saan meron itong bagong strain ng COVID. Nandiyan yung Australia, nandiyan yung Singapore, hindi ko maalala yung ibang lugar. Siguro dapat tingnan na yan. Kailangan ho, mapalawak natin yung Bureau of Quarantine, yung Department of Health sa airport with the one-stop shop. Ginawa ho natin sa UK yan, gagawin natin sa pagdinagdag pa yung ibang lugar. Meron lang ho akong katanungan na gusto kong tanungin sa ating mga medical experts. Klaro ho, Mr. President, na pag ang pasahero galing sa loob ng bansa na merong strain, klaro ho na meron kang stringent quarantine protocols. Imagine natin at isipin natin na lahat yung nagbabiyahe, minsan hindi ho direct flight, meron yung tinatawag na transit. Ibig sabihin ho, dumaan lang doon. 2 klase ho yung transit. Yung transit ho, pumunta sa airport, inantay yung connecting flight, pero galing sa lugar na merong new COVID-19 strain. Tanong, gaano katagal sila dapat sa airport bago mo impose yung strict quarantine? Ito ho yung nasa airport lang. Pangalawa na gusto kong tanungin sa medical experts is, will the rules be the same if ang stopover mo or transit mo may kasamang layover? Ibig sabihin natulog sa lugar, dun sa lugar, at kinuha yung connecting flight. Ano yung protocol at requirements na gagawin natin dyan? Magkaiba ho yan kasi yung strain na sinasabi ho nila, Mr. Mayor, President, Sir, is malawak ang contamination at mabilis. So, klaro, pag galing ka sa isang lugar at doon ka nagmula, how will you treat the transient passengers now? Considering that there are 2 kinds of transiting passengers. One that waits for their flight in the airport, and how long will this be allowed or tolerated? And the other is transiting, merong layover. Ibig sabihin, natulog sa hotel yan bago kinuha yung connection. I'd like to get the views of the medical experts because their opinion...
sinabi ko kanina, Art.
Sir?
Yan ang sinabi ko kanina.
Opo. Gusto ko pong marinig sa kanila ano yung opinion para mag-guide din kami how to address these transiting passengers coming from countries where there is a strain. considering that the strain is, again, in the words of the medical expert, deeply and widely contaminatable. You know, ano ho dapat yung patakaran natin dyan?
Well, we should ask the medical guys.
Mr. President, with your permission, we would like to recognize Dr. Isa Alejandria of the Technical Advisory Group of IATF. Ma'am.
Thank you. Good evening po, Mr. President. Regarding the question of Secretary Tugade, napag-agreean po namin mga experts, medical experts, that with regards to the travelers coming from any country with the reported UK variant, whether transit or coming directly, the quarantine will remain as 14 days. It's strict implementation of 14 days. And regardless actually of whether we're dealing with a variant or a mutation or the regular COVID-19, the quarantine, duration of quarantine remains at 14 days. We need to strictly implement the 14 days. Siguro we would like to also to clarify, no, the mode of transmission remains the same, respiratory droplet, and this virus, we expect the mutations. So to impose a lockdown or travel restriction will not be sustainable in the long run. So kailangan pa rin po yung implementation ng minimum public health standards, face mask, face shield, as discussed earlier, cough etiquette, hand washing, air circulation, then yung quarantine. Whether there is a mutation or not, these are still the standards that have to be implemented. And this virus also, yung variant po, there is no evidence at this time or data that shows that it causes the more severe form or it's more virulent. Mas mabilis lang yung transmission pero hindi siya nagkukos ng mas severe disease that will cause critical form of the disease or more hospitalizations. Sa ngayon, hindi pa yon nakikita. Mas mabilis lang ang transmission kasi nag-mutate nga dun sa protein kung saan yun yung nag-a-attach sa virus sa loob ng katawan. So yun po yun. Kaya we expect the mutations to come kasi that's the natural evolution kasi ng virus. It's their way of survival. As they replicate, they mutate. But not all mutations are significant. So far, di ba, last July, yung first mutation, yung D614G, na pumasok na sa atin yun. Kaya nagkaroon tayo ng surge noong August. And then this time, we're trying to prevent the entry of the UK variant. And tama po yung ginagawa natin ngayon na we're restricting travelers coming from UK, and we also need to check on other travelers coming from other countries where the variant is also reported. Kaya may plans po ng surveillance, biosurveillance ang Philippine Genome Center, RITM, NIH together with DOH para ma-monitor natin yung mga pumapasok na variant. So we need to strengthen the biosurveillance system so that we are on top of the situation. No? Aware tayo na may pumapasok na variants. And these variants are important to be monitored kasi may impact din sa vaccines, sa efficacy ng vaccines natin or effectiveness ng vaccines eventually. So in the moving forward, kailangan ma-set up or ma-strengthen yung biosurveillance system. And para malaman natin kung meron ng UK variant dito, yung November-December samples natin ay i-analyze ng Philippine Genome Center and RITM. Yun po, Mr. President.
Mr. President, sir. Number one is a clarification. So I take it then that whether you come from the city or state where there is a new strain, or from the airport lang taking a transient character, strict. That is for passenger at para sa tao. Ang tatanungin ko lang kasi transport ako, what will be the rules for cargos? Kasi gaya nung meeting natin noon, kung may transmission sa cargos, will the rule of the game be the same with people and cargo? I'd like to listen with the permission of the Mayor President with the medical experts.
Let me go back to itong transit. Some are taking flights and then connecting. Kung wala ng iba, there are countries whose airline make flights to the Philippines. Ang iba naman talagang layover. He has to spend the night there. Alam mo, ang tingin ko dyan, whether or not it is a transit situation or a layover, para sa akin, it's the same. The virus is carried by people, and baski na doon sa sinasabi natin na transit, they have to deal with people whether they like it or not. They have to go out and go to the counter and talk to people. So ang virus, whether in transit or just a connecting flight for the following day, ganun rin ang ano eh. So I think that yung response natin should really be, we consider them as one. We love them as one. Now, itong scenario, naunahan mo lang ako, I'd like to ask Secretary Duque and DOST, nandito ba si... I would like them to, or government itself, the offices, should create another task force. Hindi itong atin, wala man tayong alam dyan, medical, ideally it should be medical, na nakatutok lang talaga dyan sa bagong strain, whether or not it is here or not, and whether it is as virulent as itong sabi naman ni doktora, hindi masyado, it's not as toxic as itong si COVID-19, si original yung tatay. But I think that we should not really be complacent about it. We should treat them as a deadly disease that would be entering the Philippines. Mahirap kasi ang tayo, whether or not itong ano na ito is as virulent or as toxic as COVID-19. So yung tanong mo, para sa akin pareho. The contact is there. The possibility of contact is there. Because you have to talk to people. And in the transit, there are a lot of locals also there working, the policemen, the security guards are there. And while waiting, I said, they are in a room that maybe somebody somehow would pass it on to a Filipino coming home. uh, let's go back to your car, or maya na lang, tapusin mo natin ito. How about the cargo that are contaminated?
Klaro po, Mr. Mayor President, sa tao, how to deal with them, either coming directly from the state or from the airport, trato. Gusto kong malaman sa medical expert, paano natin ititreat yung cargo? Kung, especially if this virus is mabilis makakontaminate, para apektado ho ba yung cargo, para mag-guide kami sa pakikipag-usap namin sa mga airlines, sa airport operators, sa cargo. Noon po, yung COVID-19, sabi natin, transmission, animal sa tao, tao sa tao, question yung cargo. Hanggang after a while, na klaro na cargo becomes a contaminating platform. Dito ho sa bagong strain na to, kung it becomes a contaminating platform at mabilis maka-spread, kailangan ho bang maging mas strict ako sa cargo ngayon sa mga pumapasok sa airport or sa aduana, considering that this new strain is very contaminating.
Mr. President,
Yes.
if I may, the existing disinfection protocols must be followed, and pagpatuloy nyo lang yon. I think it's going to be safe enough. If you want to double the disinfection process, it will not harm, it will only do good. So whatever you've done, you can just, perhaps ramp it up a little bit more.
Third po na ginagawa ngayon, yung spraying, yung kwanis, sufficient ka na ngayon yun.
Tama po kayo. Yung ginagamit lang po dyan ay chlorine-based disinfecting chemical.
Why, Art, is there no fumigation being done? Fumigate.
Sir, nung nag-umpisa yung COVID sa mga airport, sa mga pier, meron ho yung spray contamination sa mga cargo eh. Ngayon ho, tinatanong ko, because of the nature of the new strain, will there be a need to put stronger contaminating spray, or, I want to hear from them so that we will know how we can react and deal with the airlines and the port operators.
Well, if they are potential carriers of the strain, even baggages, that is your problem. Try to find a solution for that. Fumigation or whatever, spraying, that would fall under your worry.
Kasi po, yung isang pwede natin gawin, Secretary Duque and Mr. President, sir, remember, mandatory quarantine itong mga pasahero. Huwag natin pabit-bit yung bagahe nila papunta sa Kwan. Kunin yung bagahe, we can do a process there. Pagtapos na yung quarantine nila. Para nang sa ganon, nakahold din yung cargo. Hindi naman kailangan isama nila dun sa kunyan. Unless yung mga hand carry na may essentials. I don't know.
That is a good
Again, it depends on the depth and extent of the contamination of the new strain.
That is a good suggestion. Not even a suggestion. That is a good plan, actually. Prohibit them from carrying the cargo. But that is an added burden to sa inyo. But they have to be...
Actually, sir, I think Secretary Bello will confirm this. Tumatagal yung proseso sa airport kasi kinukuha nila yung bagahe, dinadala kung saan sila makakwarantinang hotel. Baka mas maganda niyan, yung hand carry lang nila, ang dadali nila, carrying some essentials, maiwan yung ibang kargamento that will also facilitate the movement inside the airport. While you put additional quarantine precaution to the cargo as they are doing their mandatory quarantine. This is an off-the-cuff, knee-jerk reaction to the discussion.
Mr. President, we have the expert back to Dr. Alejandria for her comment to the issue. Thank you, Mr. President.
With all due respect po, we don't need to quarantine din po yung baggage and cargo. The usual standard disinfection procedures would suffice, whether there's a mutation or not. Kasi ang transmission pa rin po, the main driver of transmission is respiratory droplet. Pag umubo, talking loudly, singing loudly, close distance, yun. That's when the droplets are spread and enter the body. So it's not necessary to quarantine the cargo. So the usual disinfection measures using chlorine would suffice.
There is, what you would really want to say is that there is no scientific, hard scientific finding that itong inanimate things can be carriers of the disease.
Yeah. Yes po.
Mr. President.
Secretary Roque, ano?
Sir, Mayor, bago lang po magtanong pa tayo sa mga technical experts, nag-text lang po si Secretary Lina Briones, and I will quote, "We will implement the President's instructions to recall limited face-to-face classes in the light of recent development," end quote. So, hindi raw po nila itutuloy na yung face-to-face pilot. No? At ang pangalawang punto ko lang po, napansin ko po, walang mga taga-economic team natin dito, but I think if some of them were here, they will say, na yung tayo po yung nag-lockdown, it was really to prepare our healthcare system. So siguro po, if we are sure that this will become more virulent, although mababa po ngayon ang ating occupancy rate pagdating po sa ating mga isolation facilities, sa ating mga ward beds, sa ating mga ICU beds, maybe we should now take steps to even add more, no? Miski mababa pa po yung utilization natin, just in case talaga nga pong napaka-virulent itong bagong strain. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, Secretary Lograde.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, para lang maintindihan natin to, Mr. President, it seems like what the experts are saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, yung mutation lang ng virus is the mutation made the virus stickier lang. Right? Because you're saying yung characteristic ng virus na kumapit is now stickier. Is that what the experts are saying? That's why tumaas ang virulence niya because of yung pagdikit niya sa mga cells ng tao is because nandun yung protein that made it stickier. Ganun ba yun?
Mr. President, if I may, the current strain that has been the subject of our discussions has not been proven to have increased virulence. Only increase in transmissibility. Mabilis lang maghawa. But the virulence or the extent, the pathogenicity is the same, basically, with our current strain. So, hindi naman siya mas gumrabe o mas serious yung kanyang sakit na idinudulot. Mas mabilis lang po. So, mas mabilis lang siyang makahawa.
Pero meron dito, I think we are updated well. Spain, the government reported the first confirmed the variant of cargo. Pumasok talaga doon. Despite of their, they were once closing the border also. Takot yung mga so let's do it this way. We will assume, as it will really happen, we will assume that the new strain will arrive in the Philippines. We cannot, unless I said you close the country, papasok talaga yan. So let us proceed on that premise that this train will, that's why I said task force, so that we would be advised immediately or in advance. Papasok yan dito. So, ang ating anong yun is, yun ang, yung quarantine, tapos, sabi ni ma'am, doktora na, yung namang, hindi naman dumedicate sa inanimate things. So, sa bagay, hindi magdikit. It will not thrive. It will die if it sticks to the cargo. And kung may fumigation dyan, Art, sa iyo, fumigate lang. If you burst of itong whatever chemical that's appropriate for the cleansing of the cargo, bilisan mo lang yung just for good measure. That's about it. For good measure, let us do it. Now, Secretary Bello has something to say. Ikaw yung pinakamaraming kliyente dyan eh. Yung OFW.
Yes, Mr. President.
They come in numbers.
I was also toying with the idea na kasi ang ATF resolution is to prevent the entry of foreigners coming from UK at inaalaw yung mga OFWs. I think, Mr. President, it is also good to consider na isama na rin sa restriction even yung mga OFWs natin. Kasi it is reported by our labor attaches, Mr. President, that some of our OFWs, especially in UK, have been contaminated by this variant COVID-19, Mr. President.
No wonder. It's very natural. If you are in a community that is affected by this if a community is affected and you are there, naturally, if there are Filipino nurses, most of them, they are connected with the medical profession. Ganun rin ang mangyari. So, whether or not they would eventually they would come home and bring we cannot escape that. I avoid the idea of hindi mo pauwiin. As long as doon sa place of departure, they are tested. Perhaps when they come home, tested again and quarantined. If that is really the purpose of the government. I would not agree with the idea of disallowing Filipinos to come home. Mahirap yan. Unless we can prove that he is contaminated. But if the test shows from the place of departure, pati dito, at the same protocol naman yan, is swabbing pati, and they are quarantined. At least, sigurado. Akin my take is, Filipinos coming home will just have to gamble. We have to gamble that hopefully that they are not the carrier. But yung British foreigners, gusto ko sila, huwag munang pumasok. Kung mahawa lang naman tayo, Pilipino, por mahawa tayo ng puti, that is a disaster. So,
Mr. President,
sarado talaga ang Pilipinas.
Ang problema kasi, Mr. President, yung mga manggagaling sa UK and in other parts of Europe, ito yung mga magbabakasyon lang, Mr. President. Hindi ito yung mga displaced because of COVID-19. Kasi karamihan ng mga OFWs natin who were displaced because of COVID-19 opted to stay because they're enjoying yung kanilang insurance benefits. Ang insurance benefits kasi ng mga workers in Europe is more than 1 year. Hindi kagaya sa atin dito na 2 months lang. Doon ang unemployment insurance ng mga workers is 14 months. Kaya they can afford to stay and wait for the possibility of going back to normalcy. Kaya karamihan ng mga uwi going from UK are for vacation, Mr. President. Kaya kung yun ang purpose lang naman nila, wag na natin na lang sila pauwiin. And by the way, Mr. President, kukunti lang naman yung manggagaling dyan sa UK and other parts of Europe. Karamihan ng mga nare-repatriate ni Secretary Togade, manumbering from 1,500 to 3,000 a day, galing ito sa Asia and the Middle East countries, Mr. President. Kaya yung mga
Mr.
sa
President,
Europe,
Hanggang ngayon ba the numbers are steady? You have the average Filipinos.
Mr. Mayor President, we can submit those numbers. I don't have them now, but I can submit it first hour, even tomorrow, Sunday. I can give it.
No need, no need. Just want to know because the experts are here.
Mr. President.
After our discussion, we'll ask them.
Opo.
Ang pasok ba ng ano is may ano ka, may numbers ka that's pareho lang.
Mr. President.
Ano, the volume.
The one-stop shop is doing this on a regular basis, Your Honor.
Mr. President, may
Yes.
you back in, please, sir? Yes, sir, I have here the record of arrivals from December 21. December 21, 1,477. December 22, 1,411. December 23, 19. December 24, 14. And yesterday, 968. So we are hovering between 1,500 to up to below 2,000, Mr. President, for the OFWs.
We have the may average ka.
I think it's about 1,500, sir.
No, meron tayong cap set. Nasa 4,500 ngayon. And we are planning to increase that, Mr. Mayor President, by the end, but the start of January to 5,000, if IATF will confirm those numbers. May cap ho tayo dyan.
I hate to do this, but can we suspend this meeting for just about 30 minutes so that we can eat? I think the food is there. Mine was brought here. Session suspended. You guys, you get your food. I don't know where. Saan ba